A woman sits across from her friend at a coffee shop. They're having a normal conversation. But then it starts. The friend's face begins to change. The skin turns black. Reptilian scales appear. The ears stretch into sharp points. A snout protrudes forward. The eyes glow bright yellow. Her friend has become a dragon, but only she can see it. And this has been happening her entire life. This is the story of a 52-year-old woman from the Netherlands. A woman who spent 5 decades seeing dragons instead of human faces. Not because she was crazy, not because she was on drugs, but because her brain processes faces differently than everyone else's. She has prosopometamorphopsia, one of the rarest neurological conditions in medical history. In her case, changed how doctors understand human perception. The woman was born in 1959 in the Netherlands. From early childhood, something was different. When she looked at people's faces, they would transform. Not immediately, but after a few minutes of looking. The changes were specific, detailed, terrifying. Faces would turn black first, then elongate. Ears would grow long and pointed. A reptilian snout would push forward. Scales would cover the skin. And the eyes would glow. Bright yellow, bright green, bright blue, bright red, like something from a nightmare. As a child, she thought this was normal. She assumed everyone saw the same thing. That dragon faces were just how humans looked. She didn't question it. She didn't tell anyone. Why would she? She thought her perception was reality. That everyone experienced the world this way. That dragon faces were simply part of being human. But as she grew older, she realized something was wrong. Other people didn't react to faces the way she did. They made eye contact easily. They recognized people instantly. They didn't seem disturbed by what they saw. She began to understand. She was different. She was alone. She was seeing something nobody else could see. The hallucinations weren't limited to real faces. She saw dragon faces everywhere. In walls, in electrical sockets, in computer screens, in darkness. The faces would drift toward her, float through space, appear from nowhere, sometimes with actual people present, sometimes completely spontaneously. She would see dozens of dragon faces daily, constantly, relentlessly, without pause. Her condition made life impossibly difficult. Eye contact became unbearable. Conversations were exhausting. Social interactions required constant mental effort. She had to remind herself that the dragons weren't real, that the person she was talking to was human, that the scales and snouts and glowing eyes were hallucinations. But knowing something isn't real doesn't make it go away. The dragons remained, always watching, always transforming, always there. Despite everything, she managed to build a life. She graduated from school. She became a school administrator. She raised a daughter. She worked. She functioned. But barely. Her jobs never lasted long. Communication problems arose constantly. Conflicts developed. Misunderstandings multiplied. She would switch jobs frequently, never able to maintain stability, never able to explain what was wrong, never able to make people understand. The stress was overwhelming. She became depressed. She started drinking. The alcohol didn't stop the dragons, but it dulled her awareness, made the hallucinations less frightening, less immediate, less real. She struggled with addiction, with isolation, with the constant knowledge that her reality was broken, that her brain was lying to her, that she couldn't trust what she saw. She kept her condition secret for decades. She told no one, not her family, not her friends, not her doctors. She feared being called crazy, being institutionalized, being medicated into oblivion. She feared losing her daughter, losing her job, losing everything. So she suffered in silence. For 50 years, seeing dragons, knowing they weren't real, but unable to make them stop. In 2011, everything changed. She was 52 years old. Her symptoms had worsened significantly. The dragons were appearing more frequently, lasting longer, becoming more vivid, more disturbing, more intrusive. She couldn't cope anymore. She couldn't function. She needed help, desperately. So she did something brave. She went online. She searched for experts, and she found one. She emailed Oliver Sacks, the famous neurologist, the author, the doctor who studied unusual brain conditions. Sachs was known for listening to patients, for believing strange stories, for investigating impossible symptoms. She told him about the dragons, about her lifetime of hallucinations, about her desperate need for answers. Sachs believed her, and he referred her to a team in the Netherlands, to doctors who could help. In July 2011, she walked into a psychiatric clinic in The Hague. She told her story. The doctors listened. They didn't dismiss her. They didn't call her delusional. They recognized something rare, something neurological, something real. They began testing immediately. Blood work, neurological examinations, an EEG to measure brain electrical activity. Everything came back normal, but they didn't stop there. They ordered an MRI, a detailed brain scan, and they found something. Lesions, small areas of damage in the white matter, near the lentiform nucleus. This brain region is involved in memory, in attention, in facial recognition. The lesions were old, very old, possibly present since birth, perhaps caused by oxygen deprivation during delivery. The damage was subtle, but it was enough. Enough to break her facial recognition system. Enough to create dragons. The doctors explained what was happening. Her eyes worked perfectly. They captured accurate visual information. The problem was in processing, in interpretation. Her brain received correct data, but the areas responsible for facial recognition were misfiring. They were distorting the input, creating false perceptions, building dragons from human features. The condition had a name: prosopometamorphopsia, PMO for short. PMO is extraordinarily rare. Only about 80 cases documented in the past century. Most cases are temporary, lasting days or weeks, triggered by migraines, by strokes, by head trauma, by seizures. The distortions vary. Some people see melting faces. Some see demonic features. Some see faces with extra eyes. But the woman's case was unique. Dragons specifically, detailed reptilian transformations. Consistent, lifelong, never reported before in medical literature. The doctors diagnosed her with full-face PMO. This meant the entire face was distorted, not just one side. Some patients have hemi-PMO, where only half the face transforms. But hers affected everything. Both eyes, the whole structure, complete transformation, from human to dragon. Every time, without exception, for 5 decades, the doctors explained something crucial. She could still recognize people. She knew who they were. The recognition system worked. It was the perception system that failed. She could identify her daughter, her friends, her co-workers, but she couldn't see their real faces. She saw dragons instead. Her brain knew the truth, but her eyes showed lies. Treatment began with valproic acid, an anticonvulsant medication used for epilepsy, for migraines, for bipolar disorder. The drug controls electrical activity in the brain. It stabilizes neurons, prevents misfiring. For the first time in her life, the dragons faded. Not completely, but significantly. She could function. She could work. She could interact. It was miraculous. But the miracle didn't last. Side effects emerged. Auditory hallucinations, loud banging sounds during sleep, thuds, crashes, explosions. The sounds were terrifying. They disrupted her rest, made sleeping impossible. The visual improvement wasn't worth the auditory nightmare. The doctors needed a different approach, a different medication, a different solution. They switched her to rivastigmine, an unusual choice. This drug is used for dementia, for Alzheimer's disease, for Parkinson's disease. It helps the brain produce acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter involved in learning, in memory, in recognition. The drug helps Alzheimer's patients recognize loved ones. The doctors hoped it would help her recognize faces correctly, help her see humans instead of dragons. It worked. The rivastigmine controlled her symptoms. Not perfectly, not completely, but well enough. The dragons became less frequent, less vivid, less disturbing. She could manage them. She could function normally. She could hold conversations, make eye contact, work consistently. For the first time in 50 years, she had stability. She had normalcy. She had control. 3 years after starting treatment, her life had transformed. She maintained the same job. No more constant switching. No more conflicts. No more communication breakdowns. Her relationships improved. Her family could reach her. Her friends could connect. She was present. She was engaged. She was living. The dragon still appeared occasionally. When she stared at faces too long. When she was tired. When she was stressed. But she recognized them now, acknowledged them, and moved on. Her case was published in The Lancet in 2014, one of the most prestigious medical journals in the world. The publication detailed everything: her history, her symptoms, her treatment, her recovery. The paper became famous. Medical students studied it. Neurologists referenced it. Researchers cited it. She became the Dragon Lady, the woman who saw what nobody else could see, the patient who proved perception is constructed, not recorded, not captured, but built by the brain. Prosopometamorphopsia teaches us something profound about human perception. We think we see reality. We think our eyes show us truth. We think vision is passive, just recording what's there. But it's not. Vision is active. It's constructed. The brain builds what we see. It interprets data, makes assumptions, fills gaps, and sometimes it gets things wrong. Sometimes it builds dragons. The fusiform gyrus is the key area, located in the ventral occipitotemporal cortex. This brain region specializes in facial recognition. It's why humans can distinguish thousands of faces, why we recognize people instantly, why faces are so important to us. But when this region is damaged, strange things happen. Faces become distorted, features shift, perception breaks, reality becomes unstable. Some researchers believe prosopometamorphopsia might explain historical phenomena: demon sightings, witch accusations, monster reports. If someone in medieval times had PMO, they would see demonic faces, monstrous features, inhuman characteristics. They wouldn't know it was neurological. They would believe demons were real, that evil was visible, that monsters walked among humans. PMO might have created legends, shaped mythology, built cultural fears. Modern imaging technology is helping researchers understand PMO better. In 2024, scientists created the first computer simulations. They used AI to recreate what PMO patients see. The images were disturbing: faces with distorted features, elongated proportions, shifted eyes, warped mouths. The simulations helped others understand, helped doctors explain, helped patients feel validated. Their experience was real. Their perception was documented. Their suffering was acknowledged. The woman's case also highlights something important about psychiatric diagnosis. She could have been misdiagnosed easily. Schizophrenia causes visual hallucinations. So does psychosis. So do certain drugs. A less careful doctor might have diagnosed mental illness, prescribed antipsychotics, committed her to psychiatric care. But her hallucinations were neurological, not psychiatric. The distinction matters. The treatment differs. The prognosis changes. Careful evaluation saved her. Proper diagnosis freed her. Living with PMO requires constant cognitive effort. Patients must continuously remind themselves that what they see isn't real, that distorted faces are hallucinations, that the person in front of them is normal. This creates exhaustion, mental fatigue, emotional strain. It's like living in two realities simultaneously. One visual, one conceptual, one false, one true. The brain must constantly reconcile the contradiction, constantly fight its own perceptions, constantly doubt its own eyes. The woman now lives quietly. She maintains her privacy. She rarely gives interviews. She doesn't seek publicity. She just wants normalcy, stability, peace. The dragons still appear occasionally. She sees them, acknowledges them, and ignores them. They're part of her reality now. A manageable part, a controllable part, not a dominant part. She knows they're not real, and that knowledge is enough. Her story reminds us that the brain is fragile. That perception is constructed. That reality is subjective. What we see is not what exists. It's what our brain interprets. And sometimes those interpretations are wrong. Sometimes they're broken. Sometimes they show us dragons when we're really just looking at humans. at ordinary faces, at normal people, but the brain transforms them, distorts them, recreates them into something impossible, something terrifying, something that exists only in neural misfiring, only in broken circuits, only in the space between what is and what appears to be. The woman who saw dragons. For 50 years, she lived in a world of reptilian faces, of glowing eyes, of impossible transformations. She suffered silently, coped alone, until she found help, until doctors believed her, until treatment freed her. Now she's living proof that the brain creates reality. That perception is not truth. That what we see is what we're shown, by neurons, by chemicals, by electrical signals, and sometimes those signals show us dragons. Even when dragons don't exist, even when reality is far more ordinary, even when the monster is just a malfunction, just a mistake, just broken biology trying to make sense of the world, and failing spectacularly.